So we just had the Game Awards a couple of nights ago, and we saw what the game of the year was. We saw the games that got awards and stuff. So I wanted to just make a video basically of my personal top 10 games that came out this year in 2024. And it's not going to be just Nintendo games. It's going to be all platforms. So third party games and all. So yeah, let's get right into it. Before I start though, make sure you hit the like button, you subscribe, and you hit the bell so you know when I post. And you're going to want to stick around to the end to see what the number one game is, my game of the year. Alright, so we're starting off at number 10. It's going to be Mario versus Donkey Kong, and this one barely made the cut onto my top 10. There could have been more games that I could have put here, but I chose this one because I actually did have some fun with it. It was a good little brain teaser, you know, something that gets you thinking with the puzzles that they have, and it's a beautifully made remake of a Game Boy Advance game. If you look at the comparisons between the two, it's night and day. They did a pretty good job of you know, taking it for what it was and turning it to how it looks now. It looks amazing. The music's good. Basically all you're doing is you're using Mario to get these keys to the door so you can basically catch Donkey Kong because he stole the minis. But yeah, it's a good little quick game early in the year. It came out when Nintendo barely had anything coming out, so it was a good little thing that came out to get us through whatever month it came out. And I think it came out in like February, but yeah. So yeah, number 10 is Mario vs. Donkey Kong. Alright, and coming in at number 9, we got another Mario game, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, and ironically, it's another remake. Nintendo had a lot of those this year, but Thousand Year Door is my favorite Paper Mario. You know, I mean, nothing really changes about this remake except the visuals, so that's why it's kind of down low on this list. But the music, the remake music was really good, and the visuals were really good, so I put it on the list because I did have fun with it. Still playing through it, probably like, I think this is like my third or fourth time playing through that game. But yeah, it was a good playthrough. This wasn't anything that was like, you know, a huge, you know, big deal, but it's Paper Mario, so if you're into Paper Mario, this is pretty much one you're gonna like. All right, coming in at number 8, we got Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero. Yeah, I actually put this on the list because this game is very fun, and we've been waiting for, if you're into the Tenkaichi series, who was waiting for like years for a traditional Tenkaichi kind of game, and this game brings us back to the old days. Well, at least it's the closest thing on the modern consoles we have to what we had back in the day. This game's really fun. Visual wise, it's good. The controls and stuff are kind of complicated to get used to. I'm pretty sure if your first time firing it up, and you play the story, you're just gonna get whooped right off the bat. There's some hard parts in the story, but once you get the combat down, the buttons and everything, you know, you start to play like how you did when you were little back in the day. So yeah, this game's really good. The only thing that I wasn't really feeling was how the story was set up, the structure of it. I didn't like how you do one character and you just see everything from their perspective. It feels like you're just like skipping through everything. That's just, I don't know, that's just me. But it's like, it feels like you're seeing one thing, you're seeing another thing, and it's just, you skip. Like, some characters might have 2 fights in the whole arc, you know, or saga. So like, for example, Gohan, if you do his missions or his story in the Cell Saga, throughout the whole Cell Saga, Gohan only fights like 2 times. Like, he fights in the hyperbolic time chamber, and then when he's training with his dad, and then he fights all the way at the end. So when you get to the Cell Saga with Gohan, you just see him fighting in the hyperbolic time chamber. You do that fight, then you go straight to Cell. That's basically the end of the saga. Which, I mean, it all comes together if you play them all. But I don't know. That's just I just get a little, I don't know. It's just like it just bothers me a little bit because I played I grew up playing Budokai Tenkaichi 2, and it just it hits every point of the story. So I'm just so used to that when they just skip around and hop around everything, it just bothers me a little bit. But it is what it is. The game's still good. It's like a 8 out of 10 game to me. So yeah, we got Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Coming in at number 7, we have Super Mario Party Jamboree. And this is probably, you could argue that this is one of the best Mario parties, especially since, lately it's kind of been going downhill. But I think the Switch era kind of recovered the Mario Party franchise. But this one is the biggest Mario Party because it's got a lot of game modes, which in my opinion are kind of filler. And it's got a lot of boards. I think it's 7 boards in here, 4 new, 3 remastered. And it's got a lot of new mini games, and a lot of characters you can use. The only problem with that is a lot of this game is filler. Like the game modes are kind of filler, because you're just going to be playing Mario Party the whole time, or you're just going to play the mini games. All the rhythm stuff and all the Bowser stuff is like, but it's kind of filler because the mini games, it's a lot of them, but they're just remixes of old mini games. You know what I mean? And some of them are actually mini games from the old games, like literally just copied and pasted to this game. But still a fun time. It's Mario Party. You got the pro rules in there that makes it more competitive. It's less random stuff and more skill based, which I like that. You can choose whether you want to do that or not. I like the new boards. The board specific items. I like that. And I don't know, this is all around a really good Mario Party. This is the best one on the Switch. It's better than Superstars and Super Mario Party. It's like a combination of the two. So yeah, that's number 7. All right, and coming in at number 6, we have Persona 3 Reload. This one came out early in the year, so I almost kind of forgot that it came out this year. Felt like it came out last year, but yeah. This was my first time playing Persona 3. I never played it on PS2, and if you try to buy it again for PS2, it is super expensive. I think it's almost $200, but yeah, so this was the only way I could play it. I like this one. I don't like it more than 5 or 4 even, but this one, it's a solid Persona game. My only gripes with this one is the Tartarus, the dungeon that you go in. It kind of gets a little bit repetitive. I mean, when you go up every floor you go up, how could I put this? Yeah, every floor you go up, it changes. Like, the layout of it changes, and every now and then you might come across like a mini boss or whatever, but it doesn't really change. It gets kind of stale real quick. The reason why I like Persona 5 so much is because each dungeon that you go in is a person's mind or cognition or whatever, so it's specific to that character. So it's more fresh than just keep going back in the same dungeon. And I don't know how many floors Tartarus has, but it's a lot, and it kind of wore on me. And the way that the day-to-day life in Persona is, it kind of weighs on you, because especially since these games take like 80 hours to complete. So when you mix in Tartarus with the going to school, taking a test, you might hang out with your friend, you might go do something, it kind of gets a little taxing. And I didn't even finish this game, but that's how taxing it was for me. But it's still a solid Persona game. By all means, it's a really good game. One of the best. Atlas has been killing it this year, and this game is a part of the reason why. Alright, coming in at number 5 is Zelda, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. This is more so of to me, this is like a appetizer game, little side game, even though it's a main they say it's a main game, but I see it as like a spin-off. But we finally get to use Zelda, which is a plus. And I like her new powers where she can control and make echoes and basically break the game. I like this. I like that concept of this game. I like that it's open world. It's a pretty big map, and I think it's bigger than Link's Awakening's map. So yeah, I like basically I like the majority of this game. The only downside is the dungeons are kind of too easy, and I think they're a little too simple for 2D Zelda when you compare it to Link's Awakening and, you know, A Link Between Worlds and Link to the Past. Like, the dungeons in here is just a little too easy, and the fact that you can break the game with her echoes makes it a little bit easier. So that's the only downside of this game, but everything else is cool with it. It may be the frame rate, but you get used to it, cause it drops every now and then, but you get used to it. So yeah, Echoes of Wisdom is number 5. All right, coming in at number 4, we have Metaphor Refantasio, and this game is pretty amazing. If I say the least, it's an amazing game. Atlas has been on a tear this year with Persona and Shin Megami Tensei and now Metaphor. The only reason this game isn't higher is because it's kind of too similar to Persona. Not too well, yeah, it's similar to Persona. It kind of feels like you're playing Persona 6, because when you look at the combat, you look at the menus, the combat, it all reminds you of Persona. Like, instead of using personas, you're using archetypes. Like, the personas have different typings that they use to the enemies, like ice and fire and all that stuff. The archetypes do the same thing. They kind of the characters in this game turn into the archetypes, but in Persona, they're like, you know, the persona's like around them. It's like their shadow, technically, or kind of however you want to put it. But that's the same. The day-to-day lifestyle thing where you do an activity and you get points toward, you know, your personality traits or whatever. It's kind of the same how Persona is. So yeah, it feels like Persona 6. I will say, I said Persona 6, but I will say this: Metaphor does the day-to-day thing better because it's not a dating sim. Like, you can't fall in love with anybody on here, but you can befriend people, but it's more, the way you do things is quicker than Persona. It's like it's streamlined, so it gives you more of an incentive to do things. To whereas in Persona, you'll be playing it for like 80 hours, and you're like, okay, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of studying for tests and taking tests and doing random things out the day. So that is one thing that I like Metaphor more than Persona. I haven't beaten this game, so I don't know how the story ends, but from what I did play, the story was very intriguing and it was different. And it had like an underlying tone to it, so I liked it that much. I probably should go back there and finish it. It just came out when a lot of stuff was coming out. It came out in October, so it was a lot of stuff coming out in October. But yeah, Metaphor is number 4 on my list. All right, coming in at number 3 is none other than the game of the year from the Game Awards, and that is Astrobot. And this game surprised me because we got a trailer for it probably like 2 or 3 months before it came out, if I remember correctly. When I first saw this game, I was sold off the muscle. Like, when they showed it to us in that PlayStation, what was it, a Direct or whatever, the showcase, I was sold. But my first thought was like, you wouldn't expect seeing this game from Sony. So I was surprised, but it was Team Asobi, and they did a really good job with the colors, the level designs, the boss fights are pretty creative. I like some of the power-ups that Astro gets. My favorite one being, actually there's a few favorite ones that I have. I like the one where he shrinks. I like the VR one where he can slow down time. There was some pretty cool levels made from that. I like the little frog boxing gloves, the little rocket dog. It was a lot of stuff. Like, there's just they went nuts with this one. And I also like the levels at the end of each galaxy you go in, how it's a themed level off of one of their main IPs, like God of War, Horizon. Yeah, well, it was an Uncharted one. Loco Roco, I think that's what it's called. I can't believe they even made one for that. People forgot about that game. But yeah, they did a good job. And this game does a good job of celebrating the history of PlayStation, which is pretty amazing, because I feel like nowadays Sony forgets about the games that made them Sony. But this game actually like gives a spotlight to the games that were good and made Sony what it is nowadays, along with the new stuff that they have. So yeah, this game was damn near flawless. The only problem, my only gripe with it is some of the stuff that Astro does. It reminds me, because I play a lot of Nintendo platformers, some of the stuff he does reminds you of like Mario stuff. I mean, that's not a bad thing, because I mean, it's Mario, but like when he jumps and does the little beam thing, that reminds me of the FLUDD from Mario Galaxy. Not Mario Galaxy, my bad. Sunshine. Then it's just other little small stuff that are in the levels that I've seen in other platformers that they use, but Astrobot just does it in a different enough way to where it's not like they're copying and pasting it. So that's the only downside to it. Well, that's not even a downside. That's just me, as I play a lot of 3D platforms. So where somebody will be like, oh wow, this is amazing, I'm like, okay, this is cool, but I've seen it before, you know what I mean? But this is not a bad game at all. It won Game of the Year for a reason. More people should have bought this game. It sold like 3 million, I think, but way more people should at least give it a try. I mean, you see people see it as like a kid's game, but there's some levels in it that are pretty tough, and I think it's pretty tough to like 100% it. So yeah, Astrobot is number 3. Okay, next we have number 2, and these last two, it was hard for me to figure out which one was 1 and which one was 2, but I came to the conclusion that Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D is number 2 on the list. And I love Dragon Quest. I've been on a Dragon Quest binge this year, and this game was the icing on the cake for me this year, really. I enjoyed it so much. This is my first time playing Dragon Quest 3, so this is probably the best way to play it, because I know that the original version is very brutal. But yeah, I love the visuals, the HD 2D visuals. I love the combat, and I love how it's updated to where you can speed things up. I love how they tell you where to go most of the time. You could choose whether to tell they want you, or you could choose whether you want it to tell you where to go or not. The music's nice, of course. Everything's just on point. The only thing that kind of held this game back from being number 1 is, and it's my only gripe with Dragon Quest, is how it's still kind of stuck in its ways. Like, and by that I mean, if I use a move like snooze, or I use, what is it, Zen and Zing, and like Dazzle and all those moves, there's only a percentage chance of me landing that move. Like if I use Zen, which revives your teammates, it's only a certain chance that it actually works on my teammate. Like, that's stupid to me. And the fact that you can't really use status elements on bosses, barely. You can, but it barely works. So it's like, what's the point of having these moves? And then there's other little small things that were implanted in the older Dragon Quest games, and they're still in there today. Like when you're leveling up and you're trying to learn a move, like say you're trying to learn, say you want your mage, or not your mage, your priest to learn multi-heal, or you want a character to learn multi-heal. They might get multi-heal on this level, like I think it was like 35, but there's only a certain percentage that they learn that move. So say I level my priest up to 35, And I'm like, okay, why didn't he learn? I'm like, why didn't he learn multi-heal? That's only the level that he can have the chance to learn multi-heal. I'm like, bro, that's stupid. But it's just little stuff like that that just grinds my gears. And some of the bosses are just stupid, man. Like, I'm on the final stretch and I'm about to fight the Hydra. I forgot his actual name, but it's the one. It's not Orochi, but the Hydra dude. This dude, him and Baramos, bro, just annoying. Like, I was so pissed off. They have a move to where they can just eliminate one of your. Well, this was Baramos. He could just eliminate one of your teammates, and he's gone. Even the main character, he could just boom, he's gone for the rest of the fight. And if you win the fight, you don't get that character that got blasted away. He doesn't get XP. Like, come on, bro. That's just stupid, bro. And they just do stupid stuff. Like, I don't know. And they get crits out of nowhere, timely crits. It's just crazy. I'm surprised I beat the game, but it's still a good time. I already knew what I was getting myself into. I loved it. So yeah, Dragon Quest 2 is, I said 2. Dragon Quest 3 is number 2. And last but most certainly not least, my game of the year is none other than Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And the reason I chose this game, because if you know me, I love turn-based RPGs more than I love action RPGs. But the Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth, they have a very nice blend of action and turn-based combat with the ATB bar and the fact that you can use your moves. It pauses the game and they use their attack. I love that. So that's why I was into it in the first place. The first one with Remake, and this one is just, it's just way better than Remake. It's open world this time around. You finally go to the good parts, the real. Midgard's good for Final Fantasy VII, but the middle part of Final Fantasy VII is my favorite because you go to the Golden Saucer, you go to Costa del Sol. You see the part with Barrett's backstory. It's a lot of stuff that in between parts of Final Fantasy VII that this game highlighted, and it just remakes all that stuff and just makes it all beautiful. Music's beautiful. There's new combat moves, there's new combos and stuff that you can do. It's just a lot of stuff in this. This game's huge. A lot of people was complaining about the mini games, it being too many mini games, which I can see why they say that, but at the same time, I love mini games and RPGs, so that was just a plus for me, especially if they're optional. Like, not all the mini games were optional. And then you got Queen's Blood. Queen's Blood is one of the best things they could have came up with. It's a card game, and if you learn how to play it, it's just so addicting. Like, anytime I seen a Queen's Blood player in a new town that I went to, I was just locked in on it. Like, that was the first thing I would do. The only downside about this game, to me, it's not the mini games, is the open world does kind of get stale. Like, it gets kind of dull. The stuff you do in the open world with what's that nerd, the nerd dude's name, I forgot, but Chadley, he's annoying. Chadley's annoying, and when you do those missions and stuff, when you go to each section of the map, it does kind of get stale. Like, each section you go to, you're gonna find a tower and you're gonna light that tower up, Breath of the Wild style, and it's gonna spread open and you can see everything on the map. Then you're probably gonna go take out a little mini boss here and there. Then you're probably gonna do the thing where you find the little plants or whatever. I forgot what that was called, or the little treasures or whatever. Then it's one where you gotta time the it's like a little circle clock looking thing. You gotta like time if you play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, you know what I'm talking about. Like, every section of the map that you go to, it's just different stuff to do, but it's the same stuff for everything. And it gets, by the time you're in the middle of the game, it gets stale. But that's the only problem I have with it. Everything else with this game is pretty good. The story, they switched it up. At first, I wasn't too happy about them changing things with Final Fantasy VII because it's such a legendary game, but I guess I'm on board now with it. I gotta see it through. I'm already 2 games in, so might as well wait for the 3rd one. They kind of went Kingdom Hearts style with how the story's going. Like, it can get confusing, but if you play through the game and you look at like a in and explain, you can get everything what's going on. Like the stuff with Zack is kind of like they're doing the whole multiverse kind of thing a little bit, so it's kind of like confusing. But once I looked everything up and I was like, okay, yeah, I get what's going on. So I definitely couldn't explain it to you, but I know what's going on. So yeah, that game is what basically had my attention the most this year. I put like 80 hours into it. So yeah, that's the reason why it is my game of the year. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think. What's your game of the year? Is it any of the games that I named, or is it something else? Just let me know. Make sure you leave a like, leave a comment, hit that bell so you know when I post, and I'll see you guys in the next vid. Peace.